Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, Tasmania has shut its border to Victoria in the wake of an evolving outbreak of a highly infectious and rapidly spreading strain of COVID-19 in that state. Melburnians will enter their 4th lockdown at midnight tonight, which will see strict Stage 3 restrictions imposed for 7 days.
Not the welcome home these passengers were hoping for, missing the border cut-off by 1 hour.
10 minutes before I left Melbourne, I found out that I would have to quarantine here when I got back. Frustrated about all this. I've had to go through tests, quarantine before, and it's just frustrating. But you've got to do the right thing. Yeah.
For this traveller, a one-night trip away has turned into a 14-day stay at home.
I'm going into home isolation at my place of residence for 14 days. I've just returned from a one-night stay in Victoria.
The Premier announced Tasmania would shut off to the infected state from 2 p.m. today.
Tasmanian residents who are in Victoria at the moment can apply for essential traveller status to return home, but if approved, they'll be required to quarantine at a suitable premises on arrival for 14 days.
As Victoria once again becomes the country's COVID capital, recording 12 new local cases.
Bringing the total number of cases linked to the hotel quarantine breach in South Australia to 26. Sadly, we have one of those people in an ICU, on a ventilator, in not a very good way.
10,000 primary and secondary contacts have been identified, along with more than 150 exposure sites. Testing lines stretch for kilometres today, off the back of a record 40,411 tests conducted yesterday. Melburnians are now preparing to enter their 4th lockdown, with masks mandatory, schools to close and restaurants to only offer takeaway.
From 11:59 p.m. tonight, Victoria will enter a 7-day circuit breaker lockdown. And these restrictions will be in place until 11:59 on Thursday the 3rd of June.
Of most concern for health authorities is the nature of this strain.
We're dealing with a highly infectious strain of the virus, a variant of concern which is running faster than we have ever recorded.
When we're seeing a member in a household become infected, almost everyone in that household is infected. In a workplace with some people infected, there are many people infected. So it speaks to the infectiousness of this B1617 variant.
The Prime Minister says the Commonwealth is assisting the stricken state.
We have 218 ADF personnel who are in Victoria continuing to provide support under Operation COVID Assist.
Premier Peter Gutwein says those arriving on the Spirit of Tasmania will face the same restrictions, being forced into hotel quarantine at their own expense if they don't have a suitable home to self-isolate in, while Tasmanians who've been in Victoria since May 6 are being urged to contact public health if they develop any symptoms.
It's a day-to-day, hour-to-hour watching of this situation and to make sure that we're taking the appropriate measures in Tasmania to respond.
Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmania News.
Peter Gutwein isn't ruling out Tasmania becoming an AFL hub in the wake of Victoria's latest lockdown. The Premier has spoken with AFL boss Gil McLachlan twice in recent days over the prospect of extra games being played in the state.
Obviously, it is a moving feast for the AFL at the moment. Again, I'd make the point, and I've been clear right through this, that we would not make any special arrangements or circumstances. They would be treated the same as everybody else.
He said the state government is considering how it could accommodate teams which wouldn't need to quarantine. An East Coast community remains in shock as it braces for the impacts of a major road closure. The Tasman Highway will be shut off between Alford and Buckland from tomorrow night, leaving many unsure of how they will get to work and school.
It's the highway connecting Hobart to the East Coast. Now this entire 1.5 kilometre section is about to close, leaving several communities fearing they'll be left isolated.
The more you think about it, the worse it gets.
It's these rocks at Paradise Gorge causing concern, with experts worried they could fall onto the road at any moment.
We've moved within a day of the advice that there is a danger to human safety on the Tasman Highway, indeed on the same day, and we will never put safety in second place.
They'll now be removed, but there's no timeline for when the major highway will reopen. Karen Wilson works at Triabana Gourmet Meats and travels from Buckland each day.
I've got a sick partner that I've got to get home to. And I'm worried about what it's going to do to our business, because we do rely on the tourists and the holiday makers to get us through the tough times.
Rural Alive and Well also concerned about the impact on its mental health outreach program.
A 15-minute commute usually to Triabana to do our daily work is now an hour and 20 minutes.
Representatives from the State Growth Department visiting businesses today. Waterbank's Coastal Cafe told it could be 6 to 8 weeks before the road reopens.
We've got staff members that do live places such as Buckland or Sorrel. They're unable to travel into work, so this morning the biggest concern for me is talking through with them and understanding sort of what our roster is going to be looking like.
Left working out how to move forward, with the future uncertain.
What our winter plan was, we've got the June long weekend coming up, Dark Mofo, the tourists coming in for that. We were hoping to put on some events that sort of was a draw card to come.
Also leaving students in neighbouring towns cut off.
I suspect that there are 1 or 2 children that won't go to school from Buckland whilst the road's being fixed.
People will now have to travel to Campbelltown and through Lake Leak to access the coast, adding several hours to the trip. The only other option is to travel on Wailangta Road, which is mostly gravel with some sections only suitable for four-wheel drives. A meeting will be held tomorrow to assess access for emergency services, but the feeling in the community is
it's a piece of road that should have been upgraded a long, long time ago.
Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
Police believe a man who suffered a gunshot wound to his foot may have accidentally inflicted the damage himself. Officers were called to a service station at Kempton around 5:30 a.m, where they found the injured 27-year-old. It's believed he had been driven there from a Northern Midlands property.
Our preliminary investigations are that the matter was consistent with it being an accidental discharge and possibly self-inflicted. Police are urging anyone with information to come forward. Meanwhile, Tasmania Police says it has received a complaint against a Hobart City councillor for using a phone while driving. Councillor Jax Ewan copped criticism after attending Monday's council meeting via phone video while behind the wheel of a car. Police say the matter is being investigated. A 24-year-old Longford man has been charged with possessing child exploitation material. The man, who was also charged with possessing a prohibited firearm, was bailed to face court in August. Police are warning about the online safety of children, urging parents to engage in conversations with their kids from an early age. The long-awaited Launceston General Hospital redevelopment has been revealed in a draft master plan. Taking a tour through the site, the new Health Minister pledged to deliver the project, but couldn't yet deliver on a timeline.
Re-elected, having promised to fix the ailing health system it's been in charge of for the previous 7 years, the government's new Health Minister, Jeremy Rockliff, visited the LGH, unveiling the draft precinct master plan.
Importantly, a commitment of some $580 million over the next 10 years to ensure that we commence initially, developing a modern health precinct.
But a timeline to commence the next stages of redevelopment isn't set. That's coming later this year, after consultation finishes in September. With demand for health services rising, a facelift is sorely needed.
And certainly there are parts of the LGH which have really just reached well past their use life.
As well as delivering a wider range of services.
We need to provide better services to deliver mental health in Tasmania, and that's a key component of this plan.
Another great improvement is actually the older persons unit, and that is one that is sorely needed, particularly in Tasmania with our ageing population.
But who will work in the shiny new buildings?
And there does need to be significant investment in staffing right across the state, from the regions to the cities.
Staffing and recruitment are long-term concern. The state government says build it and they will come.
I'm excited about the LGH master plan. I'm excited about the co-location opportunities as well, which will all assist when it comes to attraction and retention.
The master plan is just a plan around buildings. We need to have a broader discussion around the strategic plan on health services and models of care, and also how those are staffed.
The nursing union is happy to see infrastructure challenges at the hospital being addressed, but it wants to see a similar strategic plan outlined for recruitment and staffing. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanians are struggling to pay their mortgages, with the state the hardest hit in the country, according to new data from consumer group Choice. More than half of Tasmanians with a home loan are deemed to be in mortgage stress. Launceston is the worst hit region, with nearly 5,000 households on the brink. The search has begun for Australians to fit out 2 new Finnish-built Spirit of Tasmania vessels. It's the latest step forward for the trouble-plagued ships, but it remains unclear exactly how much of that work will go to Tasmanians.
Signing on the dotted line, a new deal struck, ensuring locals have a hand in building 2 new Spirit of Tasmania vessels, despite construction being in Finland.
This is about committing the parties to working collaboratively together, ensuring that Tasmanian businesses have got full line of sight on their opportunities.
The Minister taking the wheel after years of delays, backflips and broken contracts, ending with Finnish company RMC building the ships. But an expression of interest process is now underway for Australians to do the internal fit-out, vying for $100 million of work, a sweetener after the country's shipbuilders were overlooked for the job.
If you're talking about our timbers, our veneers, you know, the look and feel of a Tasmanian experience, nothing touches the product out of Tasmania.
Navigation, bridge equipment, there's quite a lot of the special panelling, fire rating. There are some unique Tasmanian products that can make the Spirits, we believe, safer.
But that work isn't guaranteed to Tasmanians, instead looking nationwide, and critics say it won't make up for the ship's delay and the significant cost to the state.
The replacement of the Spirit vessels in Tasmania has been delayed significantly under this government, and that will have economic consequences.
The new Spirit vessels are expected to be ready by 2024. Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian Legal Aid has promised to strengthen its engagement with the state's Aboriginal community, signing a Reconciliation Action Plan. The service says around 8% of its clients are First Nations people, with a plan aimed at better representing their needs and struggles.
We'll use our position in the Tasmanian justice system to advance measures addressing the structural causes that see disproportionately high rates of First Nations people incarcerated.
It's about seeing the hard facts, acknowledging and understanding, speaking up and speaking the truth.
It's the first of a 4-stage process by Legal Aid to better work with the community.
We have developing news in the State League, with lawyers now getting involved over the suspension of Launceston player Cody Thorpe. This is the incident in question during the Blues Northern Bombers clash on Friday night. Late today, AFL Tasmania overruled the match review panel, banning Thorpe for 1 match, despite having previously been let off by the MRP. Launceston has released a statement saying its lawyer is seeking answers as to why the decision was reversed, with the club adding it doubts the integrity of the decisions made by TSL management. As it stands, Cody Thorpe will miss 1 match. Meanwhile, a frustrated Lauderdale will be missing some of its best players this week, and the timing couldn't be worse. The side is coming off a belting at the hands of long-time rival Clarence, one the coach is describing as unacceptable. A 76-point hammering always hurts, especially against your fiercest rival.
We don't make excuses for our performance, and our performance last week against Clarence was unacceptable, and at times it was not State League standard.
The blunt assessment made worse by the loss of Josh McGuinness with concussion. He's out for this week against the Tigers.
Have a look at the team we put in last week. We had 10 players with under 10 games experience.
And it's experience which Dan Willing needs as he laments the lack of consistency this season.
On Saturday against Clarence, I think we were a goal down at quarter time, but I could sense that the game was slipping away from us, even though we were only a goal down.
The Tigers could also be seen as missing its top end, with headliner Tyler Carter nursing an injury. But that's not how Trent Bomella sees it.
We probably got asked a lot of questions at the start of the year. It was like, you know, how are you going to replace Lovell? How are you going to replace Mackenzie Willis? Like, it's that collective buy-in from everyone to play their role, and probably that puts a little bit of a chip on the shoulder of the guys as well, that, you know, show that they can do it.
Lauderdale hosts the clash on Saturday. To regional footy, family ties run deep between Longford and Deloraine. The Williams family has produced coaches and players for the two clubs, including Phil Williams' dad.
He used to get a bit emotional in finals, and if they were playing finals and things like that, and I always used to think that he was probably a bit silly, but now I've got a bit older, you do get a bit emotional, you know, when you see your own sons playing.
While Longford skipped last year's COVID-hampered season, Deloraine took to the field. Both clubs are happy with their decisions.
Makes you look forward to it a bit more, having that time off and, jumping back on the field and doing what you love and with the people that you love doing it with.
We certainly have shown that last year with our success. The financial position of the football club, I can speak to, is in a really good way, and we put that down to the fact that we participated last year.
And the boys' NAB League match against the Oakley Chargers is off because of Victoria's COVID crisis. And Tasmanians Eddie Ockenden and Josh Belts have lined up in the Kookaburra's first international match in nearly 500 days. After a scoreless opening period, the Aussies struck good form, winning 3-1 over New Zealand. And locally, Waratah is wary of the winless Karana in this weekend's State League netball. Ashley Probert-Hill says Waratah fell away in the second half against ladder leader Northern Hawks. Coming up against the bottom side doesn't mean the foot can come off the pedal.
They're really good at fast ball movement, especially through that mid-court position.
In Hobart, Arrows will play Kingston. Cavaliers and the Northern Hawks will go at it at the Silverdome. All games are on tomorrow night. And Kim, Tasmania's NBL 1 games won't be affected by Melbourne's dramas. Mount Gambier is still due to play the Chargers, Taunts and Thunder as planned, but all other games in that league will be postponed.
Good evening. 12 in Hobart today, 15 in Launceston. That was the state's top, shared with St Helens. Burnie 13, while Devonport reached 14 degrees. Elsewhere, King, Flinders Island and Smithton all 14. Lowhead, Strawn and the Friendly Beaches 13. Bushy Park 12. Cumulus cloud extending over Tasmania today with clear skies in the northeast. Further afield, a mid-level cloud extending over central WA, high cloud to the south. Tomorrow, a stable high will move slowly to the south. A cold front remains over the Tasman Sea. Coastal waters and southwesterly winds at 25 to 35 knots, swells to 4 to 5 metres in the west and south. And a gale warning is current from St Helens Point to Tasman Island. A strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters and for all southeast inshore waters and also the Central Plateau lakes. A bushwalkers alert for the West and Central Plateau also tomorrow, and a warning to sheep graziers for the southeast and east coast. Hobart tomorrow, a light shower 11, Huonville 10, Campania cloudy and 11. Launceston 12, 13 for Devonport and Georgetown partly cloudy and 12 degrees. Burnie and Wynyard a fine day 12, a cloudy 11 on the way for Strawn. St Helens 12 tomorrow, a cloudy day for Swansea. Port Arthur a light shower, windy with a top of 11 degrees. Looking ahead to Saturday, a fine day with widespread morning frost, fine again on Sunday, and on to Monday, another fine day with morning frost once again. Perth tomorrow, showers and 24, Melbourne a shower and 14, windy in Sydney 18, Brisbane a sunny 22 degrees. And right now it's 7 in Hobart, 8 in Launceston and 9 in Devonport. Kim, that's Thursday's weather.
Thank you very much, Laura. We will see you tomorrow. That's your news for now. We'll have news breaks throughout the evening this evening, but for now, it's good night.